Now the next thing we want to do is we want to be able to direct the slices so that we can move through the bone correctly. This is where our next add-on comes into play. We're going to click on Slicer Panel, and then we're going to select our CT volume. And this is what it should look like. Now note that the navigation is different in Blender to 3D Slicer. With the left mouse button down, we can zoom in and zoom out as opposed to using the mouse wheel. The mouse wheel is reserved to move these slices in and out. So there's a little bit of a difference there. And then rotating with the right mouse button down. So this is something to get used to. Okay, so we're going to then create a little curve line. So I'm going to move halfway through the bone, somewhere like this, and then we're going to select this little marker over here, and we're going to go to Open Curve, and then we're going to plot, left click and plot this curve along the bone like this. When we get to the other side, right click to get out of that. Then we're going to where it says Input Curve, click C and select Update Curve. Now as soon as we move this, it should move along this curve, and we can see this happening at the bottom of the screen. We're going to place our first implant where the central incisor is. So tooth 1-1. We're going to set the tangential angle to 90 degrees. We'd like this to be perpendicular to the other slice. And then we're going to then set that angle, that slice also, so that the long axis is with the bone, which is over here. That's a long axis. So the actual angle, we're going to rotate this to somewhere here, because now if I'm moving through the slice on this specific one, we can see how it moves along the long axis of the ridge. This is what we need to establish. When you're doing a mandibular marking of the nerve canal, we do exactly the same thing so we can actually see it correctly. Following this, we're going to then place an implant. Here, the first implant I'm placing is a generic type implant. So you have to make sure that the slicer link is in fact open, and you can see that by the host and port. Likewise, we can see that in our add-on here, the host and port are the same. If ever you have difficulties where the two don't link up, then you may need to set the port differently. Please contact us if that is the case, because this port may be occupied by another program in your computer. So with this being done, we're going to then click on Import Tapered. Remember that we cannot select this model at this stage because of this sign, this little icon. Import Tapered, and it'll bring in a generic type of tapered implant. This in fact is a Medentika implant, but we can set this to any size. Then what we're going to do is we're going to move this along to get this. We can see the implant over here. So we know that it is upside down. I'm going to rotate this implant, and then using the G key, initially set it where I would like it to be. So I'm going to move it around to the long axis of that central incisor and move it into position. Now we can see that it is way away from the bone. I'm going to move it in towards the bone, and then we're going to rotate it along the red axis over here. So we can either click RX, or we can use this slider if we'd like to. So let's first do the RX. X is the red axis, and we will move it so we can see it inside the bone like this. Now, we don't need to visualize the green segmentation. We can disable it by clicking on the eye icon. So if this makes things easier. Now I'm going to position it downwards like this and move with the mouse wheel through the slice. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this implant a bit thinner. So I'm going to set this to 3.5 and the other one as well, 3.5. And we can see this 3.5 measure would equate to a Medentika implant, which is commercially available on the market. So this one would equate to a quadricone RI implant. So 3.5 by 3.5 by 11. So let's set this to 11. So here we've got a generic implant which is the same dimensions of a different commercially available implant. Okay, so in the components module, we're going to load our library. We're going to look for Medentika implants quadricone RI, and it's this specific one. So this is the specific one that we have made the dimensions fit to.